Welcome to the Raw State Podcast. Raw, unfiltered, real oil-filled talk. The Raw State Podcast.
We got Jim Patterson on the show. Hey, Jim, how are you doing?
Great, Chris. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. So, Jim, you're a VP Oilfield Connections in Midland, and you also run RyKor LLC.
Yes, that's right.
Tell us about RyKor. What do you guys do?
Well, RyKor is a culmination of my many years here in Odessa, Texas, and around the world, I guess. I've traveled to 16 different countries over the last 15 years, and mostly in the filtration of produced water for reinjection services with patented products for nutshell filters and induced gas flotation. RyKor was formed a couple of years ago after we sold our company, named after my two first granddaughters, Ryan and Cora, and I was tickled to come up with the name of RyKor. It gave it a little family meaning and a little bit of extra push. So I'm trying to cultivate that. And RyKor is developing into an ongoing enterprise here in West Texas and, of course, further out markets in North Dakota, South Texas, South America, and some other places with nutshell filters. But I've also been working for the last 15, 18 months with a company from Florida using a new technology that's kind of breaking through that I'm very excited about called Aqua Pulsar and their electro oxidation process. It's new. It uses 120 volt electricity and takes raw produced water, drilling water, completion water, frack water, and is able to use 120 volt electricity to remove heavy metal sulfate causing sulfates, barium. It is a bacteria killer using 45 families of oxidants. And I'm a rep for them here in West Texas and other areas and helping develop their clientele and get that into the water business. It's also outside the oil and gas business because it's good for cooling towers. It's good for medical wastewaters. It will kill Legionella. It will kill any other bacteria. We're looking at algae, PFAS, the phosphorus in our waters, lakes, riverways, mining industry for cyanide removal, lead removal, chromium removal in water. This process can do it. What we're finding is that pretreatment of the electrooxidation may require some filtration, and it looks like my abilities in the nutshell filter business are going to be something that can help us. The current situation in West Texas, and of course all of the oil field, is low pricing. We've had the COVID-19 situation, which has been very severe on a lot of companies, a lot of employees. We hope and pray everybody gets back to work and that the industry can get back to a good position. Although, because of the changing environment that we are living in with oil and oil production, it's, I believe, going to have to be in some different thought patterns or different plan of actions so that, first off, the service sector of the oil business is going to be having to take a look at their overhead, their costs, their offers. New technologies, I believe, are going to be looked at a little bit differently and possibly with more favor than they have in the past. So new ideas, new services, things like this that can be brought to market, like what RyKor is offering, I believe are something that may help us initially as people get back to work and they start looking for better cost savings. The big thing is that RyKor is specifically making an effort where the electrooxidation and other processes, nanobubbles and some other things, to develop green technologies. And the electrooxidation is a green technology that requires no chemical to provide the bacteria cleaning and the softening of those waters. So this carries us into the residential markets as well as a replacement for older water softening technology where the backwash or the offshoot is salty water, which is now being regulated in states like California because some of the bigger water softening situations with small or large residential and small industrial use for water softeners, they don't allow that water to be turned into their municipal streams any longer due to the salt or sodium chloride contents. This is an opportunity for the new technology of the electrooxidation to replace water softeners and to get into that residential small industrial market. So that's very exciting. RyKor is a company that is an LLC. We intend to have multiple market offerings through multiple companies as we develop. So we'll have a residential company, we'll have a oil company, services and products. We'll end up with an industrial side. We'll end up in possibly a governmental EPA side working on different things with the EPA, DOE. And so we're very excited about what the markets can hold for us, but we're ready for the race to begin, you might say. So that's kind of a broad overview of RyKor. And as new products come on market, we're looking to add those to our catalog and to our offerings. So, Chris, that's
awesome.
That's a short rundown.
That's great. For those that don't understand produced water, can you explain like the life cycle of
Yes.
And the importance of produced water? What happens with it, and then go into a little bit about how you fit in all of this.
Yeah. Produced water is it's a huge market. The CapEx growth rate's for 2025, even with the COVID, has been established by Produced Water Society and some of the people that give the information out to that. University of Texas has some articles on the amount of produced water usage. And in West Texas and the Permian, and including the Delaware, we're looking at about 20 billion barrels a month of produced water coming out of the ground, being transported, being pipelined, being disposed of. So it's a tremendous amount of water. Produced water is a unique water. It is different and more complex than most people realize. It's not like fresh water is fresh water or seawater is seawater. Produced water is different at every zone and every area from North Dakota to Louisiana to the Permian here in West Texas. It has its own characteristics. The chloride levels are different. Barium sulfate levels are different. It's a very complex water that people are now starting to understand more about. And the produced water market is going to continue to grow. If drilling is reduced dramatically, we still are going to be at these 20 billion barrel a day numbers. Some 8 to 15 years ago, in single well vertical completions called conventionals, the water was in West Texas was about 3 to 4 barrels of water, produced water, for every 1 barrel of oil equivalent. So that was a lot of water. People handled it. They used the SWDs to dispose of it in disposal wells, or they re-injected it into their fields to maintain the oil field pressure in their zone so that it continued to pay. Then they went, Texas allowed multi-completions in a single well, and that increased the water volume to a 7 or 8 barrel per 1 barrel of oil equivalent. And that was handled again with the disposal stations and the reinjectivity into the secondary recovery. When the unconventionals became kind of prevalent in West Texas and southeast New Mexico, these are the horizontal wells. Today, we see water ratios in the Delaware over close to Jal, Carlsbad area, Pecos, Texas. We now see water ratios of 12 to 13 barrels, 12 to 15 barrels of produced water for every 1 barrel of oil equivalent. These are tremendously large numbers on the produced water numbers. And so we have to think, how in the world are we going to handle all that water? And that is an issue. They can't drill enough disposal wells quickly enough. We're starting to see a little bit of seismic activity that may or may not prove to be caused by the vast amounts of water re-injected and taken out from the zones. So that is something that's going to be in the future. The technology is getting better on seismology, but we still have a lot of unknowns in that. But the water business and the produced water business itself is going to continue to be a very profitable business, a business that is of utmost most importance. And it's a business that the industry itself, organizations like Produced Water Society, SPE, Society of Petroleum Engineers, are looking at daily and trying to come up with the guidelines so that there is a overall good practices of how to handle produced water from the well all the way through the pipeline, the SWD, saltwater disposal stations, the disposal wells, or the recycle reuse of this water for agricultural and livestock use. The comments from the Society of Petroleum Engineering and the Produced Water Society have been along the lines that if those groups don't take the experts who are members there, like myself, and create a guidelines, then that will be done by the regulators and the governmental entities such as EPA, Railroad Commission, BLM, New Mexico Corporation. And when that happens, you have regulators who are not as schooled, or they're not as scientific as what you would have from societies such as the Produced Water Society or the Society of Petroleum Engineers. And our goal is to maintain a conservative across the board guidelines rather than a regulatory. So we're very hopeful that the industry leaders and the oil companies will get with us on these things. And that's something that I'm currently working with Produced Water Society on, and the membership and the president of the organization. So that's exciting, but it's something that's a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of effort, and we need our groups and anybody interested to get involved with Produced Water Society. It's something that if you have something to say, we'd certainly like to hear it. If you have technology, we'd certainly like to hear it and get you in front of a lot of potential opportunities. You talked a little bit, Chris, about the networking group that we formed, the Oilfield Connections. And I'd like to mention that I'm now the vice president of the Midland chapter, the headquarters for Oilfield Connections. It's an exciting opportunity for people who are in the oil and gas business, or who have family in the business, or are just affiliated. If you live in West Texas, you're welcome. Even if you're a lawyer, I would say you're welcome to come and attend our organization, our networking luncheons, and take a look at our site at oilfieldconnections.org. It's a great group of people. You'll find that everybody in these situations having a lunch, sharing their stories, handing out business cards, talking about their businesses. It's very helpful in a situation time like what we are now. We're not individuals. We're a network. We're a group. We're an oil and gas family. And I believe in the long run that this type of an organization is going to allow people to exchange their ideas, exchange their opportunities, and help one another in finding new jobs, new opportunities, and giving them some hope of this is an additional place to expand and feel welcome. And so I would welcome everyone to the network, Oilfield Connections, and tell you it's at oilfieldconnections.org. And please, feel free to take a look at it and join us wherever you're located at.
No, it's a great organization, and we had Sarge Summers on, and Sarge had gone through and took us through that too. And I appreciate you indicating, and I appreciate your involvement in that, and proposing that people go there, because I think it's important in the future that, like you said, people need to be connected on a networking level. It's really important for us moving forward.
It is, Chris.
Tell us about. Oh, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say that, I use LinkedIn a lot. A lot of people use Facebook. I'm not too big on that. Twitter. Uh, the LinkedIn has been a place that I have met a lot of new friends. And in fact, that's kind of how you and I got together through Sarge and the oil field connections, but also through LinkedIn. And I'm constantly amazed at some of the talent, some of the products, some of the stories that I see on LinkedIn, and I use it daily. I find that it's very encouraging. It's somewhat of a professional organization in that they encourage people to talk about business more so than the personal aspect, but you can't keep the personal stories out of business, and there are some fantastic stories on LinkedIn. So I'd encourage everyone to work your LinkedIn. I mean, I didn't get 30,000 followers without working it, and I do it daily, and it's just part of my sales marketing opportunity. And if I need something, I needed some separators the other day for a client that was in a rush. I put that on the LinkedIn site, and within 2 hours, I had 12 people who had the equipment we needed. Unfortunately, they were shut down before they could purchase the order because of the COVID. So, but it's still there. So we'll hopefully pick that back up. But everyone was wonderful. I mean, it just is amazing. People, when they see someone in need of anything, whether they need a trailer or a truck, or they need somebody to help them with a flat tire, man, LinkedIn, it's effective immediately. So I would encourage everybody to get on that thing. But I think that podcasts like yours, Chris, that you're doing right now, and what we're doing, may be the mark of the future a little bit as well. I'm very interested in pursuing podcasts like this, talking about my business and where I'm going. And I think it's an interesting way to have a following and have people listen to individuals who have some dreams. And of course, even though I'm a little older than some of the people you probably talk with, I still have some dreams, and I'm not going to retire anytime soon. I feel great. It's exciting, and I love working with people and meeting new people. And so I like to meet challenges, and if I can find solutions, man, that's a lot of fun. And if you can make your work fun, then life is great. And the rest of it will take care of itself. So that's my intent for the future, is to keep getting up every day and trying to keep a positive face and say my prayers, and let things fall where they will. And there's some things I can't change. The economy right now is very sick for the oil and gas business, but there's a lot of people with a lot of talent, and I think we're going to come back roaring back very shortly. So
yeah, I agree. And you've participated in a small business kind of a contest, right, in Odessa
yes,
recently?
I'm currently involved in a challenge, a challenge for funding. The Odessa, Texas Economic Development Board, working with the Small Business Development Center here, University of Texas Permian Basin, has fund or seed money available, and they have a contest. And so I entered it in January, and it consists of 15 classes, one a week. And we go through the process of learning about insurance, how to form a company, how to write a business plan, how to promote that business plan. And most of these things I've done in the past. I've started lots of little companies and been successful in some, but I've never really gone as far as to write a thorough, complete business plan. Yeah, I just never took the time. I mean, I knew how to do it. I'd written some 3, 4, 5 page business plans. Through this program, the professor recommended that I talk to a consulting firm, BAM Consulting in Midland. They assisted me for a small fee, and I believe it was well worth it, because they increased my business plan from a small 5-page, 6-page business plan to a business plan that I'm proud to put my name on. It's over 100 pages, and it's probably too big, but it's got so much information in it that I think that an investor would look at and say, wow, I think this guy knows where he's headed. And I do know where I'm headed. So this is an impetus. This is a stimulation to my business to be able to participate in this. There were 39 companies and people, individuals that joined the program, and we had our first stage, I guess, and I was able to make it into the top 15. There'll be another cut June 1st. They'll take the next 8, and then it'll be reduced to 3, and they'll make a sales pitch, much like the Sharks at the Shark Tank, in front of 5 judges here in Odessa. Midland's doing the same thing, called the Midland Business Challenge. And I would encourage anyone in this local area next year, or when they have another one, to get into it as I did. I'm not saying I'd love to win. I'm very competitive. But the truth is, what I've learned from being associated with individuals that I would have never come to meet or listen to, such as college professors anymore, although they're smart people, they're just outside my circle. But reaching outside the circle has been a lot of fun. And when we turned our business plans in for the final analysis last night, I sent a text to the professor and said, thank you. If I don't win, it's been a great journey. And the truth is, I've found new associates and new friends in this endeavor, and that's really more than anybody could ask for. And, that's the way I look at success as well. It's great to have, but you have to enjoy it and you have to earn it. Success doesn't just fall into most people's laps. You have to work every day at it. And I've been successful. I hope to be very successful again, and just continue with life. And life is grand. It's a great time.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're well on your way. And so it's, from a standpoint of producing wells, having, 11 to 12 times the amount of produced water per barrel of oil, how is the transportation handled for the produced water typically for the Delaware Basin? Is it trucks, vacuum trucks?
3 to 4 years ago, I would say 80% of the water was trucked. And they gave an example of how much water that is. And I'll put it in perspective. If you took 130 barrel transport and you put all of that water into transports, you'd have enough transports that would reach the moon and back. They'd be lined up all the way to the moon, all the way back. So you can imagine how many trucks have been running in West Texas. It's been tens of thousands of transports. So our highways have been torn up. The state hasn't recognized that, they need to put a lot more money in Southeast New Mexico and to West Texas roads because we've just had so much traffic. Now, the major oil and independent oil companies have made every effort they could to get their infrastructure started. And even that has created outside sourcing of the midstream companies. And the midstreams have brought investment monies in the hundreds of millions of dollars to assist and to take some of that load off of the oil companies, because the oil companies really, the way they make money is drill a well, produce a well, and make money off selling the oil. They don't make much money transporting produced water. That's not really in their key focal point. It's of their business. They're oil companies. They're not water transport companies. So the midstreams have made a big stride in getting into those areas with outside investment money, and they are putting the infrastructure in. However, I would say that the trucking side, they've affected it by at least 50 to 70% so far, and expect in the next couple of years, you'll see that more pipelines, more stations, more places to take the water with disposals and things like this will increase. I can see the day in the future where we have no drilling rigs. We've drilled out the area. There may be 1 or 2 rigs running always, but we've got one of the statistics for the Delaware was by the University of Texas by Dr. Scanlon, was that there are 300,000 more wells needing to be drilled in the Delaware. And that would pretty well saturate the number of wells that you could put in that particular area today called the Delaware. So 300,000 wells, that's a lot more drilling. But at that point, it would be everything's drilled up. Everything's either has a tap on it where we could turn it off and on, or it's ready to be completed, and the drilling is done. And we would become a nation in this part of the world where we have the reserves, they're on tap, so to speak, and during any shortage or fluctuation in the markets, you just turn the taps, and it would become more of a, just like a water well, you turn your tap on when you need it. And that's the way I can see under the current way we're going that it's going to be. So you're going to see the drilling business shrink. And it's something you had said earlier, Chris, about forecasting some years ago that, the United States cannot sustain 700 or 800 drilling rigs for very long. I agree with that 100%. I think as we get saturation and more wells drilled, I can tell you right now, comments that I had from an oil company, a major oil company here recently, was that there are about 6,000 to 8,000 wells that have been drilled in West Texas, Southeast New Mexico, and the Permian, Delaware, that have yet to be completed. They've been drilled, but they've yet to be completed because of the infrastructure. There's no pipeline or there's no facilities to take that capacity of water and oil. So one of those wells going to come on. Well, they're going to have to go, they've got to do the completion work. They've got to do the zipper fracs and the big water jobs. And so that's going to require building more water pits, more pipelines, more compression, more horsepower. I mean, it just is a tremendously complex market that I believe is going to come back some. And we're always going to need pipeline workers and roustabouts, but we aren't going to need the technical drilling departments and the millions and millions of dollars that they spend. But that's my philosophy alone, although I do see some indicators of it from some of the associations that I have. So,
yeah, that's, how for produced water, to what level can we technically today, the technology available today, at what level can we clean it and purify it? Is it to a drinking level? Is it to a agricultural level? Kind of go into detail about that if you can.
Well, that's an interesting topic, and it's one that's being hotly discussed at every point. And I hear this all the time, is that, we've made a breakthrough. We have the technology. We can do it. And then when you get right into it, nobody has the black box, so to speak, that can do it all. One of the issues with produced water is the technology that I represent with the electrooxidation can take the heavy metals and make them inert. It can take the sulfates, make them inert. It can kill the bacteria. It can kill the H2S. It can do all these things. And it softens the water. And the process, it does not knock the salt out or the chlorides. And reverse osmosis is a perfect candidate for produced water to make it into potable agricultural, livestock, and even potentially human consumption. However, the chloride levels in West Texas are well over 100 to 150,000 ppm or milligrams per liter of chlorides. And this is potassium chloride, sodium chloride. And so it's very, very salty produced water. The problem with RO, reverse osmosis, is that anything above 60,000 ppm or milligrams per liter of chlorides, the RO system is very ineffective. It can handle it, but it clogs it up very quickly. And so RO becomes very expensive, a lot of backwashing. It's just ineffective. So we currently have a company that I'm working with on the outside through Aquapulsar and their electrooxidation, and they are testing in New Mexico right now for XTO, and they have been turning a little bit of water onto the ground. And it still has a little salinity to it. They're using a chemical process. Well, in other words, they're using electrooxidation to get the metals, the bacteria, and all of the organics reduced out of the water as a pretreatment. And then they take it from there into a chemical process to reduce the chlorides. And from there, the RO is more effective. And the water they're coming up with is water of the salinity of the Pecos River. So Pecos River water can be used for agricultural, and it can be used for some livestock. I know in years past, down towards Grand Falls, Texas, south of Monahans, there's a little reservoir there called Imperial Reservoir. It's very salty. They were actually able to take some of that salty Pecos River water, and they were doing shrimp farming in that area. And it was looking like it was a heck of a deal. Unfortunately, the Pecos River, it gets pretty much down to a trickle sometimes during the year, and then it floods, and then it has a lot of other issues because of salt cedars and some of the issues that have been contaminated into that Pecos River through the years. But it did prove that the water from the Pecos River, which is high salinity, high chlorides, could be used for a byproduct, saltwater, freshwater shrimp, and they were delicious. Believe me, they were big, they were good. Unfortunately, like the Pecos cantaloupes that were grown and so worldwide known, grown for years out of Cayenosa and Pecos area of Texas, the water table dropped. And so the lifting cost, horsepower cost to lift that water out of the ground from originally it was at 30 feet, and it dropped to 90 feet, and then it dropped to 200 feet. And I think now some of those waters in Cayenosa and Pecos are at 600 feet. So it's just too expensive to pump that water to the surface. However, that is an area that I'm looking into in water, and that is to use solar power to pump that water up. The volumes required for irrigation are tremendous, and don't know that we can get there with solar, but solar powered pumps are there's been some technology breakthroughs a little bit on the how to make some of that work, and I'm working on that with some guys, so that's an exciting opportunity.
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems like the water business and produced water in particular is going to be around for some time, and it's probably a lot bigger of an industry than most people in oil and gas really maybe even realize, right?
Well, I'll tell you, Chris, I in this competition, I had an opportunity to stand up in front of these 39, 38 other people. And they said, okay, Jim, we'll give you 60 seconds to tell us your spiel. What do you think? And I said, well, let me just explain this first. I said, I'm an oil field service company. I'm a products technology company. And here's what I'm going to tell you. We think we live in a desert. And on the surface, it looks like a desert. But the truth is, everybody in the Permian Basin, the Permian, the Delaware, we're living in basically in an ocean. We live on top of the saltiest produced water, brine water in the world. And we don't lack water in West Texas, even though everybody complains we don't have enough water. We have plenty of water. The truth is the technology needs to be developed to where I can see in the future 50, hopefully I'm kind of guessing this, but honestly, I can see where there would be lakes everywhere. We'd have reservoirs. We would have lakes. This country will grow anything, much like Israel, if you give it enough water. And the water is here. It's just up to us and our generation, the next generation, to develop technologies that are cost effective, better for the environment, and the ability to transport and use of that water. Water, who would have expected that water would cost more today than oil? When you look at a bottle of water or a case of water at $5, that's, you're talking about a couple of gallons of water for $5. Today's gasoline prices of $1.50 or less, you're paying more for water than you are for gasoline. And I expect that that'll continue worldwide. We see arid deserts creating in China, Europe. Underground water systems are strained due to agricultural uses. And of course, everybody believes that in Texas, for instance, that the number one use of water is fracking. And yes, they do use a lot of water, 2 million barrel fracks. It's a lot of water. But it pales in comparison to the agricultural use of water in Texas and the municipal use of water. So our water resources are being impacted by oil and gas, but it's not what people think. And we hear the stories in the press and the public and different people who have agendas that, the fracking, they're using so much water, they're using all our water. They're not using all our water. It's being used by the municipals. It's been used by the government. It's being used by agricultural uses and old technologies of agricultural use. We're still doing sprinkling of water and irrigating in ways that cause a lot of evaporation. So, we need to be thinking of the future and our children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, and what are their water rights and uses going to be? It's going to be something that if we don't start planning today for those, they're going to be left with possibly arid deserts all over parts of the United States. And I don't think anybody wants that. My grandparents remember the Dust Bowls of the 30s and some of the stories that they told about, that you couldn't grow anything because it'd be covered up with 2 foot of sand in a week. And so they ate things that people wouldn't realize today in the worst economies, and that was tumbleweeds. They made tumbleweed soup. They ate gourds, things that people never heard of. Who in the heck would eat tumbleweed? An old man that I knew and worked with for many years told me, he said, we ate tumbleweed soup. And he said that was the most bitter. If you didn't soak it first, you couldn't eat it. It was so bitter. But he said, we actually was one of our staples was tumbleweed soup. And
Wow.
that's just crazy. I tell you, Chris, talk about old people. My family, I married a woman from Fort Stockton 42 years ago, and her family they made the Texon boom. And Texon, if people don't know, is halfway between McCamey, Texas and Big Lake, Texas. And back in the 20s, when that boom hit, there was a town that was built up for the oil that they had found there. And the Rita #1 was the first well discovered there, I think, in 1918 or 19. But the boom hit in the 20s, and there were 10 or 12,000 people in this town, and I think it got up to 25,000. My grandmother and her sisters lived there in a tent. And then come to find out, my wife's grandparents ran a water trucking company to Texon from Fort Stockton. And so our grandparents were actually working together or living right side by side back in the 20s. It was really a funny history for our families. And so Texon and some of these other fields, Ranger, Texas, some of the booms that happened in the 20s, spectacular, just spectacular out here. So exciting times to think about those things. And I think we're going to see a resurgence here in West Texas soon and get back to going. It may not be on the drilling side. It may be on the water side. It could be. We get some breakthroughs in some of the technologies I'm handling. We can make big breakthroughs very quickly. And the prices are coming down as to what it costs us to operate. So I'm excited about those opportunities, Chris.
No, that's fantastic. Well, Jim, how do people get in touch with you? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I am always available for discussions or business opportunities or to stretch my imagination. I love hearing people's stories and talk about them. I know I'm talking a lot today, but the best way to get a hold of me is of course, through either LinkedIn. You can find me at Jim Patterson. You can find me on my website at RyKor, RYKOR.net. And then my cell phone, 432-208-8888. And if you can't get me, leave me a message. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And look forward to any questions about business, life, oil field connections. Love to talk about oil field connections. That's one way. I'll tell you, Chris, one of the things, and Sarge might not say this, but it's a great way for a 60-something-year-old man that's seen a lot in his lifetime to see the twinkle in the eye of the 20s and the 30s and the 40-year-old men and women that I'm meeting. I've been there. I was those ages one time, and it's an exciting time for them. And sometimes they don't think that an old guy can fit into their lives. They're so busy. But the truth is, I do find many of the younger generations, they look up to us older guys and say, well, what do you think? And we appreciate that because, we still think we're valuable.
Well, yeah, you are. I mean, it's a resource that the industry cannot afford to lose. And I consider myself a young guy, but at 46, I'm almost a gray hair in oil and gas now. So, I like to hear that the younger generation is being proactive and getting involved in these organizations like Oilfield Connections, and it would be interesting to see. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to participate in one of these events yet, but I want to do it very soon, as soon as this COVID stuff stops locking everybody down. But I look forward to being involved with that and being a contributed member. But I can relate to what you're saying, is that the younger generation seeing and kind of leaning on the older generation and the experience to get some feedback is so crucial. And I can remember early in my career working with company men and different people on locations. It was unbelievable how much knowledge and experience they would share with me, and I'm so thankful for it. And it's the reason why I'm successful today, is some of these things that they told me over the years, I put them to good use. So I appreciate you guys being involved, and I've seen that you guys are up to like 18 different entities of the
The
or
chapters.
18 different places for the chapters, right? So
Yes.
that's really good. So for any of you listeners out there, oilfieldconnections.org, go there and get involved. So that's great.
Absolutely, Chris. And one thing I'd like to mention about that Oilfield Connections is, if we don't have a chapter in your area or your town, we're looking for people. I talked to a gentleman this morning. We don't have anybody in Woodward, Oklahoma. He's interested in that area possibly. Talked to a gentleman the other day in Carlsbad, New Mexico. You wouldn't think that Carlsbad is a very big area, but hey, 20 people is a good organization. I mean, that's how Oilfield Connection started in Midland. 20 people, 5 people. It was an idea. We had some fun. We talked about things. Next thing you know, we passed the word, and gosh, we got 25 more. Now we got 50, and so it's a pretty interesting thing. And one of the things that was brought out in Midland at the last lunch in March was, how can we better serve our community? And lo and behold, one of the guys that was there was a handicapped gentleman who runs the Midland Food Bank. And he said, well, if y'all are looking for something to do and you want to get involved, the Midland Food Bank needs drivers. And lo and behold, there were 5 people in that group of 150 people that volunteered to start delivering meals for the food bank in Midland. Now, that is the kind of networking that brings a smile to my face. People pitching in to help other people. And truthfully, it's the American way. That's the American life. We are good people, sometimes we forget how good we really are at heart. And I would encourage everybody to get involved. I know we're all busy, but I'm trying to, at my age, I told some people the other day, I said, I haven't given enough of myself, and I'm going to make every effort every day now to see if with what time I have left on this world, to see if I can't reach out more. And that includes my business. I'm going to reach out more than I ever have. And it's exciting times.
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about, right? Is that's some of the satisfaction that you get from reaching out and being part of something greater than yourself, and
yes,
and also contributing. I posted something on LinkedIn a while back, and it got 40,000, 50,000 views and a lot of shares, and really it was just very simple. It was just, hey, if you're hurting, if you feel like you need to talk, I'm here. Just send me a message. I can help. No questions asked. That's the way it is. Well, I saw a guy post on there, and he said, I'm a disabled vet, and I've got these bills. And so I sent him a message, and I just said, hey, I'll help. Like, give me the account number, give me the website. I'll go there. And I was able to help him and his family out. And I mean, it's fantastic. That's the satisfaction you get from that's stuff that can't be replaced in your life with anything else. So if you're trying to fill voids, get out there, help somebody, reach out, do what you can. And sometimes it's not about money or financial stuff. It's just about, like you said, about driving meals, participating. I'm sure that the food bank appreciated it, but I guarantee you those volunteers got more out of it personally for
Absolutely.
volunteering their time than what that food bank got out of it. So,
Absolutely, Chris. I mean, and when you think about it, I mean, I feel like I should be doing it as well. And that is, you're dealing usually with senior citizens who are housebound, and a lot of cases, the food bank people are the only people that those older folks get to see in a day's time. Um, so think about that. You're a smiling face. You're a bright light from the outside. They're in their homes. They're secure, but they don't have, most of their friends are gone. And so, uh, just sharing yourself and opening up to people who are in their final years, it's a blessing and something that I encourage everyone to get involved in.
well, Jim, man, I can't thank you enough for the being a guest on the show.
Well,
You've been a
thank you,
great
Chris.
guest. I think that you've given a lot of insight into the produced water part of it. Again, for those listeners out there, RyKor, it's spelled RyKor. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, RyKor. And these guys are on the cutting edge of produced water. So technology and everything, look them up. And thanks, Jim, again for being on the show, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. You're a great guy, and I hope I didn't drag on too long.